Hey, hey. Oh my goodness. I'm having a moment here. Oh, okay. Ooh. Anybody want to say hello? Hey, Megan. Thanks for showing. I'm a little bit behind schedule. I don't have my drink sorted out. So, hey, Violet. Nice to see you. Happy Monday to you as well, if it indeed has been such. Okay, I didn't have my drink organized, so now I'm doing that. Oh, Megan says thanks to me. Thanks to you, me. She just got her 12 recs together. Give me a second and let me get myself centered on camera a little bit better. Ah, okay. So, I'm glad I was. Oh, Nicole says good evening. Oh, wow, we have the crew. Like I said, I just don't have my act together vis-a-vis a beverage. So, if you'll pardon me for a second, I'm just going to spill some liquid stuff all over my keyboard. That'll be awesome. Not for the first time. Tonight it's a Summit brand Diet Cola. That is from Aldi. But I jazzed it up with a little lemon wedge because I was feeling fancy as heck. Okay. Nicole says, I love the visual, LOL. Your board was me December 31st, says Nicole. Megan says, LOL, yes, love the board. I'm trying to get the board set up where you can actually see it, but you know, I use books to prop things up, to make things higher or lower, whatever. One day I need to do a reading vlog that's just the books I use to make things taller. Okay. It's still not entirely on screen. It's really a visual representation of my potential descent into madness. Hey, Abby Jean! You missed it. I was just explaining that tonight's beverage is off-brand, Summit brand Diet Cola from Aldi, which was jazzed up with a lemon wedge, which you probably can't see, and which I'm about to spill all over the computer. Now, after I did my reading vlog either yesterday or 100 years ago, I'm not sure which, I got a tripod. So although I do have to stack books up to make this kind of fit, it still doesn't fit. I'll just move it up and down as necessary. At least I don't have this giant pile of books on a table, on another table. Yeah, it was a mess. Excellent, says Abby Jean. I assume she's talking about the cola and not my filming was. Anyway, so now I have a tripod, and it's even got a ring light with different colors. Right now I have it on red. Hang on, let me put on my glasses so you can see the reflection. Look at me. I am Satan, and I have red eyes. Oh, and Satan, and I have red eyes. Oh, and tiara check. I hope this is... I hope it's showing up. It's multicolored, and it really makes me feel like the Queen of the Fairies, and I couldn't wait until like springtime or May Day or whatever to wear it. I'm on it today. So how's everybody doing? I think Abby Jean says beautiful. My hair is deciding to just flip out on me. I can dig it. So, as usual, having rushed to set up, now I just want to kind of breathe a little bit and just be glad everything's fine. I didn't break anything major. Nicole says, this is going to be a rough week at work, but today was good. Well, hold on to that. Okay. So, and Megan says, good. Read some more of The Widow of Rose House. I did buy it, and it's way better than I was expecting. I have it, where do I have it? Where'd it go? Oh, there it is. I have it out from the library. This is the top shelf of my bookcase, is my library materials, including a different copy of The Manchurian Candidate, because I finally sat down to watch The Manchurian Candidate, and the disc was not playing. So I got it from another library, and I know I got this copy from this library before and it worked just fine, and that was only like 16, 17 years ago, so it should be fine now. When I checked this book out, I also checked out Hotel of Secrets by Diana Biller, because I like books about secrets and I like books about hotels. So Abby Jean says, I just finished rereading the Ray Cass. Who wrote the Ray Cass, if you don't mind sharing? Oh my gosh. Ugh. You're here to watch me do housework. Abby Jean says, I am 12 chapters into The Widow of Rose House. Really enjoying it so far. Good, good. I haven't started it yet because I have just been running my hinder off. I have no hinder left. It's all been run off. No hinder. Just all flat back there. Oh, I thought you said 12. It's 2. 2 chapters in. The Ray Cass is by Scarlett Peckham. That's a great name, Scarlett Peckham. Kind of in a pickle with my lighting because too much lighting, too little lighting, so I went for overkill. And yeah, now I feel kind of like the Pillsbury Dough gal. And that's fine. That's just fine. I'm not finished baking just yet. Okay, so today I was going to talk about my 12 recs and hear what people had to say about the experience of putting together their 12 recs, any recs that they want to particularly share. Yeah, and I keep looking down here because that's where the computer is. I still haven't quite gotten the proportions right for where the camera is versus where the computer is. Anyway, so yeah, I kind of struggled a little bit because I only started reading historical romance again like this last 4 or 5 months after a very long hiatus. So yeah, so I have a little bit of recency bias in that I'm picking the books that I've read recently because that's when I've done most of my historical romance reading. I do have some older works. In fact, I had a good time. Oh, Megan has something to say. She says, Megan says, it was hard putting mine together and narrowing it down to only 12 and only historical romance, but I also haven't read enough, so I know there's so much more out there. Yeah, I kind of feel the same way because, again, I just started reading historical romance again. So I did actually get a book that I read many years ago. I have a couple books that I read many years ago, and one of them I reread over the weekend. One of them I've reread within the last 3 or 4 years. And one, I went over to this library. I had to go across the river and over the river and through the woods to get there because the internet said that they had a copy of this book. And I got there and their catalog said they had it, but it wasn't on the shelf. So it's the one that got away. I didn't have time to go driving. If I wanted to drive to the other library that had it in the system, I would have ended up in Niantic, Connecticut, which is where the Book Barn is located. And, you know, if I had been near the Book Barn, I would have gone to the Book Barn. I would have gotten another mystery bag. And, you know, I've only read like a couple of books from the old one. Abby Jean says, yeah, I understand that we only read historical romance for a book club, but I thought it a little restrictive that we could only include historicals in our recs. Yeah, I mean, I didn't even have a chance to look up to remind myself of what 25 and 25 is going to be. Are we supposed to do 25 other recs in 25 and 25, or is that just read 25 books? I got enough to do with 12. Most of us read a variety of genres and subgenres. It's true. It is very true. I stuck with historicals for this, except that I have one that's more historical fiction than historical romance, although relationships are a big part of it. And then I also have another one that's a little more recently than, like, I guess 1960 is considered the cutoff for historical romance, but I've got one that's a little more recent than that. So also, I always feel a little bit antsy about recommending books, because it's like, I don't know, I just feel like I don't want to give anybody a bum steer, because I know a lot of people will actually buy a book. I mean, for the most part, I try to get it, you know, either I get it from the library, or I try to get it at a used bookstore or something like that. Sometimes I will buy it new, or if it's on Kindle Unlimited, obviously that's not a problem. But I don't want to give anybody a bum steer. I don't want you personally, generally speaking, I don't want people to go out and spend time and or money buying and or reading a book that turns out to be just bad. I guess I don't trust my own taste, or, you know, something like that. I don't know. I have, you know, my own specific tastes, and sometimes I have trouble articulating why I liked a book or why I didn't, which is kind of silly, because I've literally taken graduate school courses in textual interpretation. Having said all of that, does anybody want to say anything about how they feel about recommendations in general? Abby Jean's obviously talking about how she finds it kind of restrictive, just doing historical romances, and when, you know, we read a lot of different genres, different eras. Anybody else? Oh, Megan says, I agree, Abby, but I understand the intention in keeping the book club focused on historical romance, because that's what it was made for. And even though we all like other stuff, we don't all like the same. Yeah, I mean, I was just thinking the other day, there are so many Discords I could join, but only so many I could, like, be fully present in. So for right now, it's just the one. Although maybe Crystal's Romantasy or something, I don't know, because, yeah. Abby G says, yeah, I get it. Well, anyway, does anybody have any thoughts they want to share about recommendations in general? Okay, well, I'll start in on my specific recs. I have organized my books according to historical era in which they take place, or chronological era when they're set, not when they were published, starting with the earliest and working my way up to the most recent. So, unless anybody has any objections to that. Abby Jean says, I also feel nervous recommending books. LOL. Is that a nervous little LOL? Or is it a, yeah, we've all been there. Either way, it's an LOL. I'll take it. Okay. This first one is time travel, but the time travel involves going back all the way to, like, 1066. So, the Battle of Hastings. Oh, Megan says, same. I feel like if it's not a 5-star for someone, I've failed them. Yeah, I mean, gee, it's almost like people have different tastes in things, and I don't, I think I'm being kind of egotistical. I'm putting, like, way too much emphasis on my own opinion and other people's relationship to it. Like, oh, Sock Marionette said that she thought God of Malice was a total hoot. I better run out and buy all of Rita Kent's books that were ever published in fancy special editions with sprayed edges and illustrations. Nobody's going to do that just because I said I thought the book was a hoot in a dark romance kind of unhinged way. Megan says, LOL, we are overthinking this way too much. You know what? You are right. That's it. I'm going in. Okay, so this is a time travel book that goes as early as 1066. And that is, are you ready for this? This is not its first time on this channel. This is not its first time on YouTube. It is Until Forever. by Joanna Lindsey. And Abby Jean is laughing, and Nicole Carter says, "Ooh, I love me some time travel." Oh, she says, "I love me time travel." Yeah. And of course, it's a step back. It is the step back with the white, yes way. It is. And the big sword. And the autumn leaves. Because it's the Battle of Hastings. I mean, it's very, very little, a Fabio classic. Yes, this is Elaine Diolo, who claims the credit for discovering Fabio. Anyway, yeah, it's very autumnal. It's got all this beautiful it's beautiful autumn leaves, and so it actually there's a nice interlude that takes place in the fall because Battle of Hastings, but yeah, it doesn't have a whole lot of fall content. And because they're time traveling, you're safe to read it any time of year, really. Like you couldn't do that anyway. Okay, so I prepared a Post-it note for each book. Until Forever by Joanna Lindsey, copyright 1995, 375 pages, and the era is time travel with an emphasis on the early Middle Ages. So we're just going to stick it up here for now. On the board of madness. Okay. Yes, a Fabio classic indeed. Okay, so that's the first one. Until Forever, and it's gold. Ooh. Ooh. Okay. And now we're going to move up slightly. Violet, this is the one I was suggesting might be of interest to you specifically, but really, this is a book this is copyright 1991, takes place in the early 14th century, so like around 1316 or so. And I read it. It's copyright 1991, and I read it just about the time it came out. It's a Harlequin historical called To Touch the Sun. Oh, leans in, says Violet. Yes. It's called To Touch the Sun by Barbara Lee, and it was her first book with Harlequin Historical. And I don't know how many others she wrote with them or else. Woo, says Violet. Anyway, so this takes place around about 1315 or so. The Pixie Cut. Let's go. Yes, you know what? This is the thing. And I'm actually going to read the back of it. Now, keeping in mind that the woman who wrote this, Barbara Lee, published in 1991, and she was already a mother of 5 and grandmother of 6. So, beloved captive, to be a knight, chivalrous in deed, and courageous in battle was all that Drew had ever wished for. Dubbed Sir Drew, she had sworn to serve her king and seek revenge against her enemy, Connaught. She had vowed to slay the treacherous knight, yet one look into the depths of his fire-blue eyes, and she knew she could never kill him. Though she had captured him fairly on the field of battle, it was Drew who was completely in his power, and she shuddered to think what the proud Connaught would do when he discovered that the lad who had defeated him was nothing more than a woman. So actually, I think using more modern terminology, even in 1991, I would say she's probably non-binary. And it was a little jarring to read this person who basically identified as a knight. I mean, that was kind of their gender almost, as using female pronouns, even when the other characters who think that Drew is a man through and through still use the female pronouns. It's a little confused. Like I said, I think that Barbara Lee was probably born around 1930, so she's, you know, Violet says, oh, iconic, very intrigued. The past was doing its best, okay? It really was, and I think Barbara Lee was trying. So anyway, so she's attracted to Connaught, Drew. They are attracted to Connaught. She is like I said, the pronouns being used are she. I don't think that those are the same choices that writers today would make. Anyway, so Drew does not like being attracted to Connaught because as far as Drew is concerned, knights don't have sex with other knights. And she doesn't think of it, they don't think of it in terms of male or female, just like fraternization, basically. Also, Drew feels like they have nothing in common with the women of their era. Now I'm doing it. And it's really, really interesting. So this is 300 pages even. Yeah, it takes place around 315. So I'm going to put it up here on the big board of, I don't know if people remember whose line is it anyway, where the point system was made up and didn't mean anything. I think that's what this is. These numbers don't mean anything. Nothing means anything. All I can think of are recommendations. Violet says, the tropes are so stacked. Enemies to lovers, yes. Captor captive, yes. Gender shenanigans, it sounds fun. Megan says, LOL, love, whose line is it anyway? Showdown, hoedown. Yes, Violet, I just thought it would be of interest to you, and I think it hits a couple of squares on the Broaden Your Horizons challenge, because it takes place in Middle Ages and genderqueer. Though not using those terms, of course, but anyway. So, yes, so To Touch the Sun. And remarkably progressive for 1991. And for a Harlequin historical in 1991. So that was the second one. Okay, now we're coming up on, this was one of the first adult novels that I read. It's historical fiction. It was published in 1972, and like I said, it's a little iffy whether it's historical fiction or historical romance. Really more historical fiction, but I'm throwing it in there anyway. And that is Green Darkness by Anya Seton. This is just like a classic of historical fiction. And unfortunately, this is a newer edition, and the cover that I read, Violet says, yes, it does fit several prompts. Yeah. Yeah, anyway, so Green Darkness by Anya Seton was published in 1972, and it's not exactly time travel, it is reincarnation. And it is, so the modern bits take place in 1968, and the historic bits take place in 1552 to 1559. So smack in the middle of the Tudor period. And yeah, and this one, we've got priest shenanigans. So yeah, for those of you who like a good religious taboo, priest shenanigans kind of story, this will be up your alley. And again, more historical fiction than historical romance. It, like I said, was published in 1972, originally published in 1972, and this edition has 591 pages. The edition I read was a hardcover. It was the original edition, had a really, really neat cover of this very tiny, oh, it is! Violet says it's on KU, apparently. Are you talking about Green Darkness or To Touch the Sun? But anyway, so I read this when I was probably about 12 or so. Green Darkness, says Violet. Okay, so this is on Kindle Unlimited. Awesome. Like I said, the original cover, if you can Google that, if anybody gets a chance, it's got this tiny little couple in this big, ominous forest. It's very, very cool. Now, I will say that as something that was taking place in 1968, the contemporary parts were taking place in 1968, published in 1972, there are some kind of homophobic depictions of a gay character. They were kind of sympathetic for their time, but kind of jarring. I remember being kind of jarred when I read this around 1982 or so, just 10 years after it was published. So, but I was a progressive little child, so. Okay, so Green Darkness. More historical fiction than historical romance, although male-female relationships and other kinds of relationships are very much at the forefront of the story. Now I don't even remember what comes next. So Kindle Unlimited, cool beans. Oh, okay. This one I read just recently. And oh, this goes on the big board of whatever. Ah. Oh, Violet has more to say. There's something about the OG cover of Green Darkness that reminds me of the illustrated forests in the Sleeping Beauty movie. Ah, well, the OG cover is absolutely gorgeous. And I mean, this is just like, it looks like it could be about like the King's Mistress or something. In fact, she's got a very restoration look to her. I feel like she looks like Nell Gwynn. It's like, you know. Okay, the next one is one that Megan helped me pick out from the free books that I picked up at the Danbury Public Library, and that is To Beguile a Beast by Elizabeth Hoyt, which I think might be interesting to Nicole if she hasn't read it yet. Megan's laughing. Because this is kind of a very loose retelling of Beauty and the Beast. And this is one of those fake outs where it's got the strip on the cover. Like it was one time it was a step back, but not anymore, except that it's a double fake out because it really is a step back. Ooh. Megan says, ooh, I can pick that one. I've been wanting to read Elizabeth Hoyt. Nicole says, I have not read it. It is on my list for May. Oh, nice. Yeah, it's very loose retelling of Beauty and the Beast. And Abby Jean is just giving it hard eyes. Now, if you look at this guy, this is the Beast, and he's hideously scarred. I mean, can you tell how hideously scarred he is? Like, literally in the text, on page, a child screams, a woman faints, and he talks about that time a sex worker wanted to charge him double once she saw him in full light. Hideously scarred, says Violet Cat. Yes, I know. Let's take that off. Hideously scarred. I mean, look, that's why they cut off. He's got to hide behind his lady, and so I mean, I guess disability. He is missing an eye. So Megan says, "Wow, how terrible! They must not like him. They must not like him with his shirt off." Well, I mean, it's coming off so that you can see how incredibly hideously scarred he is. Okay, by the way, this takes place in 1765. Abby Jean says, I've been curious about Elizabeth Hoyt too. I had one of hers picked out to read, but when I discovered the hero's name was the same as my father's, it was out the window. And Megan wanted us to know she was being sarcastic. Violet says, I'm not mad at the sex worker for getting her coin, but surely you could just look at his washboard ads. You know what? I think that she wanted to charge him double after they'd gone back to hers and she saw him in full light. I think she just thought, oh, this is an excuse to charge him double. What's he going to do? Just walk away from all of this? And she miscalculated. I don't think she was that repulsed, really. I think she just miscalculated. Megan says, oh, LOL. Oh, my goodness. Now, this is book 3 of 4 for the Legend of the Four Soldiers. And there's like this story interspersed throughout that's one of the Legend of the Four Soldiers. It's kind of the framing device. It doesn't really make any sense to me because I haven't read any of the other books. Mostly I'm just enjoying getting Elizabeth Hoyt confused with Elizabeth Boyle. I'm like, oh, I have read Elizabeth Boyle. No, I've read Elizabeth Hoyt. I do have Elizabeth Boyle on my shelves. Haven't read anything by her yet. Anyway, so this is 1765. He got hideously scarred in an ambush in the colonies, as we still were in those days. And that's kind of like part of the thread that weaves the 4 novels together, I gather. I'm interested to read the others. So anyway, not Elizabeth Boyle. Okay. Now, moving on. Okay, this one I think many of us have read because it was actually a book club pick for, oh, I should have read the summary. If anybody wants me to read the summary, let me know and I'll catch up with you. Now, this one we read for the book club not too long ago. It is This Earl of Mine by Kate Bateman. And I just saw this the other day in a library bookshop. So it was like $1. And I was like, I read it on KU. I enjoyed it. So I thought I'd get my own copy. And anyway, yeah. So this is the one about the lady who just needs a husband. So she goes to the prison and grabs a dude. And This Earl of Mine. I like these recent, this is 2019, 325 pages, and it takes place in 1816. This recent spate of titles that are puns on the word Earl, or other titles, but basically the word Earl. So This Earl of Mine, I don't know if there's one called The Earl is Mine. The doggone Earl is mine. But I want to write one, perhaps playing off of To Touch the Sun, called The Earl's a Girl, which is about an earl who is a trans woman. If I don't write it, somebody else should, and I'm not going to write it. I'm just going to have the idea, but I'm not going to execute, because I'm all about ideas, man. Violet says, Forever Your Earl by Eva Lee is another one. Yeah, Eva Lee is great. I love her. And apparently when she was a teenager, she wrote Duran Duran fan fiction, which my sister-in-law did as well. My sister-in-law is my age. I think Eva Lee is probably younger. Okay. Okay. Moving into recency bias, I just finished this book 2 days ago. And that is, I think somebody on Discord might have recommended it. I'm not sure, talked about it. I don't know. The Paid Companion by Amanda Quick. Ooh, you can see the red from the ring light. It's eerie. Eerie. Anyway. The Earl of Violet says, love Amanda Quick. Yeah. This is kind of more, this wasn't published until, this is 2004. And the paperback, this is of course the hardback, the paperback does not have one of those great Pinot covers as the ones that from Amanda Quick in the early 90s. But it definitely has the vibe. I think it takes place in around 1816. The Earl of St. Mirren needs a woman. Don't we all? His intentions are purely practical. He simply wants someone sensible and suitably lovely to pose as his betrothed for a few weeks among polite society. He has his own agenda to pursue, and a false fiancé will keep the husband hunters at bay while he goes about his business. The easiest solution is to hire a paid companion. After all, the sorry women who must accept such employment are sure to be grateful for any favor. However, finding the right candidate proves to be more of a challenge than he expected until he encounters Miss Eleanora Lodge. Her dowdy attire and pinned-up hair cannot hide her fine figure and the fire in her golden eyes. And her unfortunate circumstances and dreams of a life of independence make the Earl's generous offer undeniably appealing. But Eleanora is unsure what this masquerade might entail. I'm not having a stroke. That was just supposed to be a saucy wink. I smell burnt toast. That was just a little joke for Megan and any other Canadians who happen to be here tonight. St. Mirren is hiding a secret or two, and things seem oddly amiss in his gloomy Rain Street home. She is soon to discover that his secrets are even darker than his decor, and that this lark will be a far more dangerous adventure than she'd been led to believe. And Arthur, Earl of St. Mirren, is making a discovery as well, that the meek and mild companion he'd initially envisioned has become, in reality, a partner in his quest to catch a killer, and an outspoken belle of the ball who stirs a wild passion in his practical heart. And Violet says, love how frequently historical characters have golden or purple eyes. Yes. But I also wonder if the purple eyes will clash with the red hair. Because a lot of them have red hair. Happens all the time. What was I going to say about this? Oh, yeah. What I really liked about Eleonora is that she is like really organized and really practical. And I really admire that in anyone, really. Megan says, so true. Like, I've never seen purple eyes. Well, I think the closest you're going to get is if you watch a Technicolor movie with Elizabeth Taylor, because she had eyes which, with certain makeup and lighting, kind of looked like they might be purple, but they were blue. They were just very vibrant blue. But people used to talk about her having purple eyes or violet eyes. She didn't, but it could look that way sometimes. Okay, moving right along. Violet says, this book sounds super fun, though. It is, it is. I was so sure that it was the start of a series, but it wasn't. It just seemed like it was being set up that way. It was good. I really liked it. And even, so like I said, though, recency bias, because I just finished this like 2 or 3 days ago, but I haven't even put it on Instagram yet. By the way, the candle was Bookshelf from Mixed Inspired's Book Club collection, because the thing that Eleonora wants to do is open bookstore. Moving right along. Until Tomorrow by Jill Marie Landis. Another one with a beautiful foiled and fall leaves type of cover. I think Bea did this on Summer of Step Backs. You might remember we have the lady in the yellow dress. This is a Western, takes place in 1867. Actually, it's a Western and a Southern. They start in Kansas and then they travel back east to Alabama. Let me just read the summary for you. Woman of the Prairie. Alone on her Kansas homestead, Kara James passed the time making rag dolls and dreamed of a better life in California. Man of the battlefields. Traveling home from the Civil War, Dake Reed comes across an ambushed wagon and a newborn baby in need of care. Bringing the child to the first house he found across the lonely prairie, Dake turned to Kara, a backwoods young woman, who lived by her grandma's sayings and her pioneer instincts. Together, they embarked on a journey to fulfill the heart's greatest promises, a place to call home, and a love that lasts forever and a day. Okay, that doesn't really actually tell you a whole lot. Yeah, so Dake finds this infant, and he knows he has to take the infant back to Alabama, which is where he's from. But he's kind of persona non grata because it is 1867, it's Reconstruction. And and he actually left Alabama to fight for the Union. So that's an issue. So there's a whole lot of Reconstruction era stuff going on in here. So if that's an era that you're interested in, this might be for you. Anyway, they're wandering around with this baby, and they start off and they just don't even know. They barely, they were both like the youngest in their family, and they didn't, he didn't really have much to do with babies because he was, a dude. And she was the youngest in her family, so she didn't have any babies, and she didn't have babies to take care of or anything. So it's like they're basically wandering around going, like, which end do we put the oatmeal into? But they figure it out. Abby Jean says, intriguing. Yeah, I enjoyed it. And now it's on 12. The points don't mean anything. My hair is coming out of its pins, not my scalp. Okay, there we go. Okay, well, we're moving along. Violet says, I do love an accidental parent story. Yeah, they have to go around telling everybody, like, no, we're not married. No, it's not our kid. Oh, for Pete's sake, just give us separate rooms, would ya? Although, of course, there is going to be a point where there's only one bed. Oh, yeah. Of course, there's also a baby, but, you know, can't have everything. Okay, now we're moving back to the UK, or, yeah, by then it would have been the UK. It's 1876, and this is Mesmerized by Candace Camp. It's published in 2003. Oh, by the way, that book was by Jill Marie Landis. It was published in 1994 and had 357 pages. Okay, this is Mesmerized by Candace Camp, which is 2003, 410 pages, and it's book 1 of 8 of the Mad Morelands story. And burning down the house. I can't sing, and yet I will do it anyway. Okay, so yeah, this is Mesmerized. Her cross to bear. All her life, Olivia Moreland has denied her clairvoyant abilities, working instead to disprove the mediums that flock to London. But when Stephen, Lord St. Leger, Lord St. Leger, Saint Leger. That was a pointless rabbit hole. When Stephen, Lord St. Leger, requests her help in investigating an alleged psychic, she can't ignore the ominous presence she feels within the walls of his ancient estate. Nor can she ignore the intimate connection she feels to Stephen, as if she has somehow known him before. His gift to treasure. Abby Jean says, so pretty. Yes, she's got her pink bustly dress, and it's on fire. Okay, I gotta stop doing that. Or not. I'm gonna do it. It makes me happy. Okay, the last time he'd lived in Black Hope Hall, Stephen had watched as his elder brother claim both the family title and the woman he loved. Now, following his brother's death, Stephen reluctantly returns home and finds his family ensconced in scandal. Who is behind his brother's murder? A dark spirit or the psychic who claims to have channeled it? And what is it about psychic investigator Olivia Moreland that awakes his long-dormant passion? As they search for answers, Stephen and Olivia discover that the only way to fight a powerful evil is with a powerful love. I don't know if anybody's read Candace Camp, but she's fun. She has banter. She's active on Instagram. Her stuff for Throwback Thursday is like her with her child in like 1970 or 1980. There we go. So anyway, I had a good time with this, and I'm looking forward to reading more from the Mad Morelands. Because like in here you meet like her sister and her sister's husband, but then you go and like I think the next book is the story of their courtship. Uh-oh. One of my Post-its fell off. It's on the floor. It drifted under the Christmas tree, and it's currently being mauled by a Raggedy Andy. Okay. Violet says, I have a different Candace Camp book, An Independent Woman. No psychics in there, though. That I know of. Oh, I have something else over here that I was going to talk about. I'll do that afterward, if I remember. I've been meaning to do it for like 3 weeks now. Still haven't. Okay. Megan says, LOL, the board has descended into mad. Okay. Megan says, LOL, the board has descended into madness. My revenge is complete. Okay. Okay, where was I? It turns out that these boards of madness with all the string and everything, it's kind of hard to get the string and the push pins to work together. At least, you know, I don't know. I just don't have the right kind of monomania, I guess. Okay, now, for those of you who watched the Romance Grab Bag, I have a book from there in this recommendations pile. It's not Whippoorwill, though. Still haven't read that. But I will. Oh, yes, I will. This is Deceptive Desires by Shira Stevens. This is really cool because I don't know if you can see it in this much detail, but that raised gold foiled lettering, it actually has little lines, little horizontal lines. I don't know if you can hear it. It sounds like somebody, when you run your fingernails over it, it sounds like somebody walking down the street with very tight corduroy pants that, like, anyway, it's corduroy. So this one was published in 1987. This is the one where we were like, look at the dude's mullet, and it actually turns out that the that bit back there is actually her hand, because her arm is super long, just that one arm. Her right arm is super long, but not the other one is normally proportioned. Violet says, oh, this looks like a gothic. Love her hair and dress. It is a gothic, but it's a gothic that takes place in Montana, just after statehood, like 1893 Montana. But it's a gothic. It's first person. And like any good gothic, it relies on the female main character being kind of a ninny. I enjoyed it. It was fun. But yeah, it's a gothic, but it's a Western gothic. So, and she's supposed to be going to Montana from Chicago, and she's kind of naive and sheltered for somebody from Chicago. Acts like she's never been to a Cubs game. I don't know what that's about. Anywho, so I had a good time with it. It's not very long. It's like I said, it's like 287 pages. And yeah. And there actually is a scene in the book where she's sitting in a chair. They're indoors, fully clothed, and they do have a little bit of a smooch under those circumstances. But here it looks like she's about to go downtown, and that does not happen in the book, at least not in that context. So, yeah. It's just like a little smoochy smooch indoors in the middle of the day. No! No! Elizabeth Hoyt wants to get away from all of this nonsense. She's like, no, I don't think so. This lady's crazy. Anyway, enjoyed it. Western Gothic. Don't see that every day. Okay, now that book's trying to get away. Okay. I do love the Gothic thing of this man is hot and I love him. Also, I think he might be trying to kill me. This does not bother me for some reason. Well, it bothers her, but she'll still see him tonight on a downtown train. Again, not having a stroke. Oh, now we're making a great leap forward in time by several decades. We're going to 1960. I think I recommended this in the comments on your Broaden Your Horizons video, Violet. And that is You Should Be So Lucky by Cat Sebastian. Which takes place in 1960. We've got the nerdy reporter who's being forced to cover the sports beat, and he doesn't really want to. And we've got the player. Let me read the summary. An emotional, slow burn, grumpy sunshine, queer romance between the new star shortstop stuck in a batting slump and the reporter assigned to reluctantly cover his first season. The 1960 baseball season is shaping up to be the worst year of Eddie O'Leary's life. He can't manage to hit the ball. His new teammates hate him. He's living out of a suitcase, and he's homesick. When the team's owner orders him to give a bunch of interviews to some snobby reporter, he's ready to call it quits. He can barely manage to behave himself for the length of a game, let alone an entire season. But he's already on thin ice, so he has no choice but to agree. Mark Bailey is not a sports reporter. He writes for the arts page, and these days he's barely even managing to do that much. He's had a rough year and just wants to be left alone in his too-empty apartment, mourning a partner he'd never been able to be public about. The last thing he needs is to spend a season writing about New York's obnoxious new shortstop in a stunt to get the struggling newspaper more readers. Isolated together within the crush of an anonymous city, these two lonely souls orbit each other as they slowly give in to the inevitable gravity of their attraction. But Mark has vowed that he'll never be someone's secret ever again, and Eddie can't be out as a professional athlete. It's just them against the world, and they'll both have to decide if that's enough. Violet says, yes, you did! Violet reads her comments and remembers them. This is kind of, it's not exactly a sequel, but it refers to people in another book that was called, I think, We Could Be So Good. Yeah, We Could Be So Good, which was pretty good. I like this one better, but it's baseball. Queer baseball at that. Just try keeping me away. These sticky notes could be stickier. Anywho, Abby Jean says, woo! And Violet says, this sounds so good. It is. It is. And it is, what did I do? It is 2024, so this is like published this year. And it is 379 pages, but it is a trade paperback. So, okay, so now we're getting into some things that are possibly not historical. These are my last two formal recommendations, and then I have a couple of little extra bits. Okay, this is a time travel. It's largely a contemporary with one character who appears every once in a while. She is mostly living in the 1970s, though, and that is One Last Stop by Casey McQuiston. McQuiston or McQuiston? I don't know if they pronounce the U. Quiston. Anyway, and this is 2021, 417 pages, and it's time travel with this woman out here lives in the modern era, and the woman on the subway train lives in the 70s. For cynical 23-year-old August, moving to New York City is supposed to prove her right, that things like magic and cinematic love stories don't exist, and the only smart way to go through life is alone. She can't imagine how waiting tables at a 24-hour pancake diner and moving in with too many weird roommates could possibly change that. And there's certainly no chance of her subway commute being anything more than a daily trudge through boredom and electrical failures. I used to live in New York. I know what that's like. But then there's this gorgeous girl on the train. Jane, dazzling, charming, mysterious, impossible Jane. Jane with her rough edges and swoopy hair and soft smile, showing up in a leather jacket to save August's morning when she needs it most. August's subway crush becomes the best part of her day, but pretty soon she discovers that there's one big problem. Jane doesn't just look like an old school... I see what you did. Doesn't just look like an old school punk rocker. She's literally displaced in time from the 1970s, and August is going to have to use everything she tried to leave in her own past to help Jane. Maybe it's time to start believing in some things after all. So, 1970s, historical, magical realism, oh yeah. To touch the sun, man. Sir Drew really wants to mingle with the poor people of the 20th century. Okay. And one last one before I get into the extras, the bonuses. And this one is contemporary, but it does have magical realism. And I'm going to sneak it in there. A Novel Love Story by Ashley, is it Poston or Poston? I've heard it both ways. I think people who have listened to the audiobooks say Poston. Ashley Poston. Oh, you can see the red ring line again. Ooh. Anyway, this is a contemporary magical realism, so I think for people who are interested in getting into contemporary, this might be a nice way to magical realism. So I think for people who are interested in getting into contemporary, this might be a nice way to do that. Love is stranger than fiction. Eileen Elsie Merriweather loves to get lost in a good happily ever after. The fictional kind anyway, because at least imaginary men don't leave you at the altar. I hate it when that happens. Or I would if it, yeah, anyway. She feels safe in stories, at home in books. Which might be why she's so set on going to her book club's annual retreat this year. She needs good friends, cheap wine, and grand romantic gestures, no matter what. When her car unexpectedly breaks down on the way, she finds herself stranded in a quaint town that seems like it's right out of a novel. Because it is. This place can't be real, and yet she's here in Elora Ton. The town from her favorite romance series, where the candy store's honey taffy is always sweet, the local bar's burgers are always a little burnt, and rain always comes in the afternoon. It feels like home. It's perfect and perfectly frozen, trapped in the late author's last unfinished story. Elsie is sure that must be why she's here, to help bring the town to its storybook ending. Except there is a character in Ellerton, whom she can't place, a grumpy bookstore owner with mint green eyes, an irritatingly sexy mouth, and an impeccable taste in novels. And he does not want her finishing this book. Which is a problem because Elsie is beginning to think the town's happily ever after just might be intertwined with her own. Emotional and tender, says B.K. Borison. Consider me Ashley Poston's barcode, says Carly Fortune. Consider me Ashley Poston's 339101602900038. Well, Carly Fortune, I think you speak for all of us. Really liked it. So I stepped out of historical but stayed in magical realism. Okay. So that's 12. We have one that fell down amongst the hoi polloi. Abby Jean is laughing at something. Probably me. Okay, now I actually do have 3 bonus books. Oh, plus the one that got away. The one that got away is The Tiger's Woman, published in 1981. Violet says, oh, this sounds bonkers. Yeah, it's sweet, bonkers, small town, magical realism goodness. The Tiger's Woman, 1981, 590 pages in the hardcover edition, takes place in the 1860s in the Pacific Northwest. And this is the book I went over the river and through the woods to get, and they didn't have it. I read this not too long after it was published. I think I read it around 1983 or 84. 83. I read it in 1983. So anyway, it's about a dance hall girl who is hiding out from some kind of figure from her past, and this dude meets her, and then they have all sorts of melodramatic stuff. Anyway, it partially takes place in a lumber yard in the Pacific Northwest in the 1860s, 1870s. Anyway, and it takes place on a little island in the San Juan de Fucas. Anyway, I liked it. I haven't read it in about 5 or 6 years, so I remember reading it, like I said, about 5 or 6 years ago and thinking, this holds up pretty okay. There are a couple of bits where it's a little rough, but it was published in 1981, so that'll happen. Anyway, so that's the one that I don't have anything to hold up other than the Post-it, which just fell off. Typical. Okay, then for those of you who enjoy some Christmas content, I read this a few weeks ago as part of the Christmas season, A Seduction at Christmas by Kathy Maxwell. It picks up. It is the first of a series. I want to say I think it's the first of a series, but I don't remember what the series is called. It picks up from the last in the previous series by Kathy Maxwell. The last book of that was In the Highlander's Bed, and this is about a secondary character from that book. It is a lovely step back. Okay. She never expected it would come to this. That's a line from Jesus Christ Superstar. She doesn't know how to love him, what to do, how to please him. Desperation and an empty stomach forced Fiona Loughlin to agree to a plan that ended up luring the wickedly notorious Duke of Holborn into trouble. Everything went terribly wrong, and now she has found herself. Is it Holborn or Holborn? Why do I keep getting sidetracked on these stupid pronunciations? Everything went terribly wrong, and now she has found herself posing as his ward. Okay, she's not actually his ward. She's posing as his ward. Important distinction, at least for those of us who have ethical concerns. Everything went terribly wrong, and now she's found herself posing as... Anyway, and while she swore nothing could make her desire a scoundrel, even if he was a duke, she is now drawing ever closer to the one man she cannot have. So, anyway, fake ward shenanigans. They're all leaping for freedom. Okay. Here's a good pirate romance by Joanna Lindsay. Okay. Captive of My Desires. 2006, 440 pages. Oh, that other one was... it fell off the board. 360, I think. 358. So close. And it was, I think, 2008. Violet says, Pretend Ward is a new one for me, I must say. Well, Real Ward, to me, it's always kind of skeevy. It's like, this person has complete control over your life, and now he wants to, what, have sex with you? No, honey, don't. Yo, I own this one, says Violet. Lady Pirates for the win! That was supposed to be a victory thing, but I hit the lamp and another post-it fell off. I'm doing great. Okay. Abby Jean says, at Violet, LOL, true. Okay, so yes. This is Captive of My Desires, not to be mistaken for Prisoner of My Desires, which is by Joanna Lindsay, and has some interesting consent shenanigans. It wasn't as much of a crap show in that sense as I thought it would be. This is Prisoner, not Captive. Captive is fun. 2006, 440 pages. And I think we all know what happens when there are piracy shenanigans. The first thing to go are the clothes. Pirates love to take your clothes away from you. Or maybe I just saw the porn version of Captain Phillips. Anyway, pirates, nudity, it happens. Okay, and one more. And this is, looks like it's a Christmas book. It's not. But if you do like your magical realism, time travel shenanigans, Believe by Victoria Alexander. Abby G says, OMG, and she laughs. What, you didn't see the porn version of Captain Phillips? It was called Daddy Phillips. Anyway, this is Victoria Alexander, Believe. It looks like it's Christmas, but it's not. Violet says, I may or may not have acquired this for the step back. No comment. Well, I mean, it's not just the lack of clothing. It's also the sort of quasi-bondage. Anyway, this looks like it's supposed to be Christmas. It's really not. There's like one offhand reference to Christmas. But it's lovely. And this is time travel. She's a contemporary historian. Professor of history, I believe, or literature, or both. Anyway, and he is Sir Galahad. Yeah. So Merlin is involved. And Nimue. And they are a couple who are arguing, kind of bored. Kind of like that couple from Highlander, the series, that were played by, oh gosh, I don't even remember. Gina and Robert were their names. And they were this immortal couple, and they'd been together for hundreds of years. And every couple of decades, they just like start provoking people around them and just acting out because they were just wanted to keep things fresh and lively. It's kind of a sexy episode of Highlander. It was a sexy episode of Highlander that didn't rely on you thinking that Adrian Paul is sexy. Anyway, that's 373 pages and was published in 1998. Okay. So that is, I think that was 15 total because I had those bonus ones. And I do have, oh yeah. I do have something I've been meaning to share for the last couple of weeks and just haven't. And that was from the December Naughty and Nice challenge. Support a local bookstore. And I went to Montgomery and Taggart, which is Connecticut's first and so far only romance-only bookstore, which is located not too far from here in the charming town of Chester, which is gorgeous. So I skipped off down there and bought a couple of books. I bought Pansies by Alexis Hall, because this is the one Spires novel that the library doesn't have. But I can't find it at the library, so I bought it from Montgomery and Taggart. And I also bought another book that they didn't have at the library, Lights Out by Nevessa Allen. Kristen she's on the Discord, and she has a YouTube channel called Kristen's Neverending TBR. She really liked this. She particularly liked it as a audiobook. In fact, I think she might have, I think she presented this in B's most recent video, the Best Books of 2024 Fake Book Awards. I think Kristen presented this book, or at least the audiobook. So anyway, and they also, at Montgomery and Taggart, one of the co-owners, Sarah, gave me a piece of swag that they normally charge for. That was very nice of her. And it's a keychain that looks like a old school hotel key tag. And it's dark green with gold lettering, and I've been using it as a Christmas ornament. Although I saw on their Instagram this morning that they have like them in pink and red for Valentine's Day, which are very pretty. And I am going to do a Valentine's Day tree at some point. So Violet says, oh, I have heard things about Lights Out. It sounds unhinged. Unhinged is kind of where I'm at right now, just in general. I sure hope my doctor phones in a prescription refill before too long. Anyway, so no, seriously, Unhinged is, well, unseriously, Unhinged is kind of where I'm at. I mean, I read God of Malice and did a whole vlog about it. So, yeah, and I liked Butcher and Blackbird, and to a lesser extent, Leather and Lark. I liked Butcher and Blackbird better, but I didn't hate Leather and Lark. I just liked the first one better. So, yeah, I'm looking forward to getting around to this, but since I own it, and I have just an insane number of books checked out from the library right now, Nicole says, I want to read Lights Out, added it to my TBR for summer. Well, maybe we could do a buddy read, because that's probably going to be summer before I get finished with my other stuff. Yeah. Or if anybody else wants to do a buddy read. So, Nicole says, Unhinged sounds awesome for wrapping up the school year. Yes. Yes. I can totally, yeah. Mm-hmm. So those were my Unhinged, well, not my Unhinged. This is the board. And it's just I think there are still more sticky notes on the board than off of it, but that's not going to last. Nicole says, always up for a buddy read. Mm-hmm. So, yeah, those were my 12 recs. Does anybody want me to discuss any more of these in any more detail than I already have? Or does anybody want to plug something, one of their particular favorites? Or oh, Megan says you should just post a picture of the board on the Discord. Well, maybe I should go to the library and like print out, because I don't have a printer myself, but go to the library and print out little book covers that I can put on the board. Or I could just post the picture and then just like list them below it as just like a regular text. Yeah. Megan says, yeah, just list it. Yeah. Or I could just be like, you have to go watch an hour-long video just to find out what I did. Violet says, I'm going to try to hunt down the Barbara Lee, but finding old Harlequins is a real crapshoot, so I'm leaning toward the paid companion. Violet, if you want to DM me, if you have an address that you're comfortable giving me, I can send this to you. because I want to spread the love far and wide. If you have an address that you're comfortable sharing with me, I can send it to you media rate as long as you live in the US, or if you're in Canada, whatever the international equivalent of media rate is. Or Captive of My Desire, since it's already on my shelf. Oh, I thought you'd already read it. Yeah, you got that too. Anyway, yeah, because I just think that I would love to talk about, I would really, really love to talk about To Touch the Sun with somebody, anybody. Okay. Anybody else have anything to say? Oh, yeah. Channel news. I think I am going to be putting off midweek motivation, which is my proposed, hopefully soon to be executed, Wednesday, 2 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, reading sprints, productivity sprints, discussion, motivation, etc. I'm going to have to put it off another week because I had so much trouble editing the reading vlog that I literally lost like 3 days to that because there were some problems with the instructions I was given. So I don't think I'm going to have time to sort out the software and all of that before Wednesday. So it's going to be pushed back to the 23rd, I guess. I'm hoping to get the first one live streaming, the first live stream for that going before the end of the month. Okay. Abby Jean says, I definitely added to my TBR tonight. Thanks, Sock. And Violet says, oh, that's so sweet. I'm about to move, so my address is about to change, but I'll DM you once I've landed. Yeah, like I said, I just, it's such a weird, it's an historical artifact of an historical romance. It's just, it's very strange and kind of compelling. So, like I said, I would love to be able to talk about it with somebody. And actually, I think that there's a fair amount of stuff from this that would apply to the Broaden Your Horizons challenge, which is I'm working on that myself. So, Okay, so does anybody have anything? Oh, yeah, actually, well, I still have people here. I do want to ask a question, and that is, I'm making my plans to do Step Back Saturday on Instagram, Bargain Counter Argument. I pair books with scented candles. So if you think that sounds like fun, I would say it is. Where's that book? I'm going to do, a lot of people who do Cover Lust Friday on Instagram are doing Hot Man January. And this is going to be Hot Man January, Cover Lust Friday. Already took the picture. And now I'm trying to decide between these two books that I haven't yet read, but I did prepare Post-its for my Step Back Saturday. I have My Fair Temptress by Christina Dodd. I think, Violet, you mentioned this on Discord when somebody was looking for a reverse Pygmalion. It is... Violet says, yeah, I think over half these would fit various prompts. Even the psychic one fits paranormal. And also, I think the one with the one where they're wandering around with the baby and they really barely know how to take care of it, she's definitely, she's farmer class, working class. So, yeah, I mean, he does come from a more privileged background, but she's definitely working class. And so, and she has been her entire life. So it's not like he's privileged background, fallen on hard times. She's definitely like working class. Okay, so I have for this weekend, I'm trying to decide between My Fair Temptress, which I think came up on the Discord for Reverse Pygmalion when people were talking about that, has this lovely step back. And this is by Christina Dodd, and it's Miss Caroline Ritter, accomplished flirt, acknowledged beauty, and ruined gentlewoman, offers lessons to any rich noble lord too inept to attract a wife. Discard your silly affectations and your garish clothing. Learn the art of witty conversation, elegant dancing, equestrian feats, and irresistible seduction at the opera. Wait, she teaches people at the opera? Or that's what... I'm overthinking this. With Miss Ritter's help, you can become the most sought-after aristocrat at the ball. Send your request to the Distinguished Academy of Governesses. Please, absolutely no devastatingly attractive men with hidden agendas, such as secret missions or vengeful plots against evil villains. Specifically not Jude Durant, the Earl of Huntington, the most handsome, the most covert, the most dangerous of all the aristocrats in Regency London. Okay, so yeah. This is 2005, and it is about 370 pages. That's one whatchamacallit, perspective for Step Back Saturday. And then the other one is Mistress of Rosecliff by Roxanne Becknell. And I've shown this before when I was I think it was when I was trying to make sure that the that my lighting was fine for showing people metallic step backs. I don't know if you can tell in this particular light, but this is actually a really, really pretty metallic burnt orange color. And it is a step back. It's got this lovely border here. It's kind of like a... Anyway. It is a step back. It takes place in the Middle Ages, and yet they have two-way stretch fabric, so you gotta love that. Also, I'm not sure that they were really... She's painting, and I don't know that they really painted that way in the Middle Ages, but whatever, man. He captured her legacy. Rogue Welsh knight Rhys ap Owain disguises himself as a wandering minstrel and arrives at Rosecliff Castle to reclaim his birthright and take vengeance on his hated enemy. And Isolde Fitzhugh will be his pawn. With Isolde's father away, Rhys plans to seize Rosecliff and his enemy's daughter, striking a mortal blow that is decades overdue. Like, what? How old is she? He has everything planned for his siege, and yet he is unprepared for the generation that... I was thinking of generational trauma and generational vengeance, and it came out when I was supposed to be saying he has everything planned for his siege, and yet he is unprepared for the desire his beautiful hostage will ignite in him. Then he captured her heart. A stranger lit the fire buried deep within her. Yet it is her dire enemy who reveals himself to Isolde in the throes of first passion. How she loathes him. Rhys ap Owain. Rhys ap Owain! The man who has brought her such aching pleasure. Damn you and your sexy, sexy ways. I've hated you since I was a child, and yet you have tight pants. He used her innocence and desire to gain his stronghold in a plot to exact vengeance upon her family. Yet neither his revenge nor her hatred is a match for the unexpected passion that will force them to confront a destiny much greater than either could ever imagine. Ooh. Okay, Violet says, ooh, I love the Becknell step back. It's so moody. It's also only 307 pages, and it's got an orange cover, so, you know, I'm just waving it around now. I'm waving it in the air like I just don't care. So I'm kind of leaning toward this one for Step Back Saturday. I even I got an easel out from the library for this presentation, but it was a French easel, which means it's got like the little compartments for the paints, and it's got a little palette and everything. I could not for the life of me figure out how to put it together or anything. So now I've just got this like on a straight back chair. Anyway, but I do have, I can extract the palette and use it for my Step Back Saturday picture. as a prop. Yeah. Oof. So yeah, anybody have any final thoughts they wish to share? Abby Jean says, "There you go." Yeah, I mean, I wish I could set up the easel, but nothing doing. It was kind of, I think, probably unnecessarily complicated, but also when I checked it out, I was a little worried that like a flag would pop up on my account saying, "Do not lend this item to this patron because she's a terrible artist and you just don't want to assist in that." It didn't happen though, but it probably should have. Don't lend this item to this patron because she'll probably break it trying to figure out how it works. Well, I mean, you know, that's realistic. These post-its are just everywhere. I should have used glitter on them, and then I'd have post-its and glitter everywhere. That would be so festive. It'd just be like if Tinkerbell had a home office. Yeah. Okay, well, it's been almost an hour and a half. Anybody want to say anything before we all say goodnight? Megan says good night, everyone. Violet says thanks for a fun stream. Well, it would not be a fun stream if people didn't attend. So thank you all for attending, and those of you who commented and those of you who didn't. You know, it's all good, and I appreciate people being here. Abby Jean says night all. Night, Abby Jean. So yeah, thanks for making the scene, everybody, and if you're watching this back later, thanks for doing that. And you know, yeah. So, night, everyone.